So the first step of the Roux method is the first block. It's where you're going to build a 3x2x1 block in the bottom left section of the cube, just like this. Since the cube is entirely scrambled from the start, we can use any outer turns, wide turns, or slice turns during this step. So make sure you're being as creative as possible, but besides that, you can basically figure this step out for yourself. Really, the way to get better is just to keep doing it over and over again until you get the hang of it. So after you've built your first block, the next step is to mirror the exact thing on the other side. This is called the second block. Whatever color you used for this big chunk, use the opposite one for this and make sure these two strips are the same color. During this step, we are slightly more restricted because we have this built, but we still have a lot of free space to work with. We can use the entire R layer, R wide layer, and the M layer, as well as the U layer. So using those 4 different moves, we can actually solve the entire second block. Now in a typical solve, I would usually start by solving this edge right here, and then creating 1x1x2 pairs like this, and inserting them in like that. But again, this step is entirely intuitive, just like the first block, so you can do it whichever way you want. Make sure you're trying to get the most efficient solution each time, and the best way to improve is just keep doing it over and over again until you get better. So the third step is called CMLL. At the end of this step, we're going to solve all 4 of these top corners. So the most advanced version of this step is called full CMLL. In full CMLL, you'll learn 42 algorithms and visualize the case you have, and then use an algorithm to solve all 4 corners at once, no matter what. The intermediate version of this step is called two-look CMLL. In two-look CMLL, we'll first orient the pieces, meaning we get all the yellow stickers facing up, and then we will move the pieces around, like these two, and then they will all be solved. So in two-look CMLL, you use 2 separate algorithms to solve the corners. If you want to learn either full CMLL or two-look CMLL, I'll leave links to that down in the description. But if you just need a few algorithms to get yourself by this step, I will teach you the most basic version, which is BeginnersCML. So for BeginnersCML, you'll need to learn the algorithm that's at the top of the screen. That algorithm will solve for this orientation case with 1 sticker facing up, a sticker facing here, a sticker facing here, and a sticker facing there. Execute this algorithm, and you can see that it correctly orients all of the corners. So let's say you don't get a case that's that specific one, then just keep doing that algorithm at random angles until you eventually get a case that fits it properly. There we go. Correct, 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 correct. I can do the algorithm and orient my corners. Now next what we have to do is actually move the corners around to get them into the right spots. So if I do a U-turn, I can see that these 2 are in the correct spots because they line up with the second block pieces, but these 2 aren't. So the algorithm you see at the top of your screen is going to swap these 2 corners just like this. So since these 2 need to be switched, I'm going to put them to the right and execute that algorithm. And then you can see that all of the corners are solved. Let's say you have a case where 2 corners need to be swapped diagonally. Just do that same algorithm from any angle, and then you will get a case where you have 2 correct and 2 across from each other. Put them on the right again, do the algorithm, and your corners will be solved. The last step is called last 6 edges. In this step, we'll be solving the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges that are remaining on the cube. Before you start, make sure that you have the top center be either white or yellow. If it's not, just do any M move and then it will be correct. So I have a white center up top, so I'm good. Next thing you need to do is something called edge orientation, or abbreviated by EO. So in EO, we're going to have a concept called good edges or bad edges. So for the top layer, a good edge has white or yellow facing up. So here I have white facing up, so that's good. Here I have orange facing up, so that's bad, red facing up, and red facing up. So these 3 are all bad edges. On the bottom, you want white or yellow facing down. So here I have yellow facing down for this edge, so it's good. This has a green facing down, so it will be bad. The entire goal of EO is to make sure all of your edges end up as good edges. And you're going to want to look out for a certain case called the arrow case, which is actually the case I have right now. So the arrow case is where you have 3 bad edges, like this, in an arrow formation, and the tip of the arrow is facing towards you. Then you have 1 bad edge on the bottom that is also facing towards you in the front position. To solve this case, do M prime, U, M prime. And now you can see we have all good edges on the top and all good edges on the bottom. Now that of course is very inefficient. So what I recommend instead is that you learn something called mini-algs. Mini-algs are short 3 to 4 move algorithms that will solve any case that's not an error case. And actually what it will do is it will reduce you down to an error case so then you can do it. So for example, this case isn't an error case, but instead of just doing the error case solution, I actually know I can just do an M2 to get myself to an error case, and then I can solve it. I know that because I learned the mini-alg for that case, and you can find all of them down in the description. So the second part to LSE is to solve these two edges here. So first, let's put all of our corners in the correct positions, and let's look at what edges we need. So we need a yellow and blue edge here, and a yellow and green edge here. So let's look for those on the cube. One there, and one there. So this is actually a good position we want. What we want to get is we want to have one of the edges on the bottom layer here, and the other edge on the top layer, but diagonally from this position. So if I have the edge here, my other edge should be up here. Say this edge were to be in the back right here, then my corresponding edge should be up there. Then do M prime, U2, M prime. That will put both of your edges on the same layer like this. And if they aren't already, you can go ahead and put them in the bottom layer. Next, take a look at what this front color is and turn the corners so that the opposite color is right here. So green is opposite of blue, 2 green edges, and there's the front. Then I do an M2, which puts them in the correct spot. And then I can simply turn my corners back like this. So let's say you have a case that looks like this. I have one edge here and one edge here. What I need to do is I need to get one of these on the bottom layer, and I can easily do that using an M2. Next, I need to move this diagonally and across from it, so here. So I have this piece here, and then across, it's up here. I do M prime, U2, M prime. And now I don't actually need to put them on the bottom layer since they just ended up to solve themselves, so I can just move them to the correct spot. The last step to LSE is extremely easy, and I'm sure you could figure it out on your own. Just one tip is only use U2s, because if you use just a U move and then do an M, you're going to break your edges that you solved earlier. So just an example, I can do that. That's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below.